Whether we all agree with this or not, the Great Reset is here. And the Great Reset is being thrown at us from a lot of different directions. You get it from the IMF, you get it from the media, you get it from the Bank of International Settlement. Every supranational organization and big corporations are now slowly on board. All of them are pushing for the Great Reset. Why are we talking about the Great Reset here? Because that's not only the entire human beings being affected, it's the first layer, the financial layer, which is going to be impacted first. And why are we interested in that too much? Because yes, it's not a great stuff and it seems like a conspiracy, but if you really go through this, you kind of get that narrative. Okay, this is happening and they won't actually push this towards this end. And look at the critical conditions. In that critical condition lies the secret. Because as you go forward, this is from the World Bank. When they did this pilot program, this is what they learned. And that kind of shows like, okay, Ether may have a smart contract basis, but it's not good for value transfer. That's simple, that's logical. Fine. Now, as you continue through, you actually have a ton of new data sets coming out where you are like, okay, if this is what they're saying is the current pain points and they're solving it using this, okay, now that makes sense with the smart contract being used here. If you are looking here at this point, they're using the transfer of money using a smart contract enabled transaction. Fine. And if you go back to the World Bank, this is what they have learned. Yes, they are using the smart contracts from Ethereum network and value transfer using interledger protocol between what? Ethereum and XRP ledger. Now, I've told about this again and again, but the issue is people don't learn until they see. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. If you are here for the first time, please consider hitting that subscribe button if you do get thought process and ideas for your portfolio. Now, jumping back into this, as you look at this era, you literally look at this like, okay, fine, this is a change and it's being talked about from a long time. We're actually discussing about this from 2007. Fine. Now, if you look at the recent developments in the same area, it's taking you through the digital ledger technology. And they are all talking about World Economic Forum, the World Bank, BIS, all of those. And the narrative here, now, this is kind of the important structure which they are putting out. The pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity, they say, to reflect and reimagine and reset our world. So the reset for them, as we saw here, mainly relies on the financial side of it. Now, how do they actually intend to change this financial future? Because they're going to change the entire infrastructure for that. They call it an opportunity. Fine. Now, what is that? As we enter a unique window of opportunity to shape the recovery, this initiative will offer insights. So they are like, okay, we are giving you insights, and most of the governments are kind of following that. Now, this looks a lot of stuff coming into play, but you really don't need all of those. We'll just look at one area of this. So as you look at this, you are like, okay, I get the fourth industrial revolution, which is kind of the IoT, blockchain, all those stuff, and they highlight blockchain. Then comes your digital identity. Then internet governance. Okay, that's something weird. And as you go through, you actually have a lot of different stuff. At the bottom here, you can actually see public finance and social protection. Okay, financial and monetary systems. So everything is being touched and changed. Banking and capital markets, development, finance, all those things which you need in the financial infrastructure is being talked about, and they are thinking to change. And when they say they, inside that World Economic Forum, look at that partners. Now, these are not all of it, but you get the point. You get a lot of banks inside that. You get BlackRock inside that. Now, these are not small. Then Blackstone. Now, both are different, but both are kind of, the giants and have a ton of real estate market under them. Now you come to this and you see Ripple. Okay, that feels like, okay, there is some kind of conspiracy. You have Bridgewater Associates, Ray Dalio Group, and then the BlackRock and all, and then you get Ripple. So there is something. What is it? I personally think this is the prior reason. This is actually a report from the Bank of Canada. Then they have done the pilot program with other central banks as shown. Now, as you enter into that, what are they really talking about? What are they taking you through? That's where it gets really interesting. They're really talking about the interoperability and how it can be used for physical transfers. Now, they're talking about your cross-border payments and how to improve that. And as you improve the cross-border payments, now you include a lot of new individuals into the banking. So they call it the financial inclusion. Now, again, it's the same stuff. Here, they're talking about the system and the interoperability. Then you come here defining interoperability. All of this is pointing towards one direction. Okay, you now have a lot of different factors looking into this. But if you take your time and read through that, they clearly give you this: a level playing field for competition and avoidance of a closed loop payment system in which payments can only be made between users of the same payment providers. That's like, okay, we are not going to use just one system. It's going to be a lot of different systems, but on an interoperable layer. This was reiterated by the IMF chief in the World Economic Forum recently. So now we go back and think like, what's happening? Okay, there was a startup which was having relation with the central banks, big central banks, and then they come out and say Ripple's interledger protocol, not XRP ledger, interledger protocol, designed to facilitate transaction between ledgers. If we go back, here they were talking about different ledgers working, but on one layer because of the interoperability. And you get that here. Fine. So now we are going through. There's another one. It's about the real-time gross settlement systems from the UK. Fine. The Bank of England actually dropped this one. So now we are looking at this. Fine. Once you see like there is a lot of talk about the synchronization of the traditional finance and the new era, how is this going to change? Because as they talk about the synchronization, you need to really get into that, saying, okay, what does that actually mean? The functionality required for a trusted third party. That's the synchronization operator. So here, with all this happening with Bank of England and Ripple, and then the external technology, what do you really think? Okay, this one is the next step. Now, I am taking you there, it's because of this one. If you have a synchronization operator standing there in this transaction and the ledger, then all of these are possible. And right now, you have already seen that, right? Ripple entering into housing, and I think it was in Colombia, right? They actually entered with a partnership. Now, that actually makes sense. So you already have the cross-border payment vertical, then you have the housing transaction vertical, then the corporate transaction is coming. And as this all joins, the level of money coming into this system is going to be huge. And if it's you or me, anyone using this system, and you are like, okay, we are a multinational company who's going to use this particular stuff, the fee is low, it's in XRP, paid in XRP, and when the price of XRP is low, you pay less. When the price of XRP is high, you pay high. So do you actually buy and hold, or you just pay more fee? So that's where the logic from David Shaw's come into play. Okay, these guys may actually buy and keep it for their use case, just as fees. Now, we all have a little bit of ether. Why? For the gas fee, right? So the same stuff. Now here, it's just 0.000 something. That's the only difference. And when they transfer in billions, okay, it'll be a little bit higher, but not anything compared to Ether. Fine. Now, going forward, there's another one from the ECB, European Central Bank, saying selected private sector initiatives. So you just saw from another end of the world. Now we are coming on to this side. Fine. So you looked at the US, how things are moving there, and then you looked at the supranational organizations, IMF, World Economic Forum, and others, and now you touched England, Bank of England, and then here in Europe. So the community of World Wide Web Consortium is developing further the Interledger protocol. So they are working on that. And this is quote unquote selected private sector initiatives. So as we go into all these documents, they actually talk about how this is going to change the world. Fine. And that's where you get cryptocurrency as a linking currency or a bridge currency. Banks can leverage cryptocurrency on a distributed ledger to facilitate global payments. That's interesting because this eliminates the supporting settlement platforms for foreign currency buffers. That's the nostro accounts they're talking about, trapped capital and all those stuff. That's reality and it's coming into play. But the question everyone will ask is like, okay, we do understand there's a lot of potential for XRP and the XRP ledger along with the Interledger protocol. But why is this being delayed? We all know this solves a huge problem. There's a solution. Why is this being delayed? This is from them. The most impactful digital ledger technology, distributed ledger technology, applications will require deep collaborations between the incumbents, that's the status quo, the banks, central banks, blah, 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 the slow guys, then the innovators and regulators. Now, that's adding complexity and adding delays. You get the point? Now, go to another one. This is from Bank of International Settlements. So, all of them are on the same page. Yes, we need to get on that. Fine? Read this. Ensuring the interoperability can be a resource-intensive, time-consuming, especially when they are required to change the legacy IT systems. So if you really are talking about changing your IT systems, Ripple is a software company. They give you software to use RippleNet, and from there the Interledger protocol and XRP ledger, if that makes sense. Fine. Now read through that. When they actually give you that narrative, it's the entire domestic payment infrastructure, and at the all member banks, they have to change this. In addition, any move towards interoperability across jurisdictions need to be synchronized. You get that word? Okay, fine. Now, further exacerbating the collective action problem. So when they talk about the synchronization and saying that we are going to further exacerbate this stuff, the speed or the adoption is going to increase. We just saw this, fine. Cambodia went on their CBDCs. They are already there. They are working with this like China. And then you see this. Okay, SBI, Ripple Asia launches Cambodia's first cross-border remittance service using a blockchain platform. So they are there doing this and the CBDC is already there. So how do you think this is going to work together? And they are working on this for the financial inclusion. This is not something we are far away from. It's happening right now in front of us. What is Interledger protocol? When we say ILP, you need to really understand if you are sending Ether, if you are sending whatever, it's all fine. Because now we go through a router and reach there. So Euro to ETH has been transferred. Now your ETH to Yen has to be transferred. But the issue here is that's happening through a smart contract. Fine. But they are using XRP ledger. So in the example 2, why they are giving it to you is only because they are like, okay, we are considering all different options, but quote unquote now directly from the World Bank. Ether smart contract idea is fine, but for value exchange, you don't want to use that. Then now we are taking an idea like, okay, I know this is going to be delayed, things are going to change, but how long this evolution will take place? Because if we are looking at the financial space and saying this is going to change, it is going to change, and it is changing. Over the next 2 decades, digital money will transform the ways we think about the currency and how it operates. So your cash transaction, your e-money transaction, it's all changing. Digital currencies are emerging at a fast pace thanks to the convergence of fundamental technological transformations, and they all point towards the digital distributed ledger technology. Now, at the bottom, they do talk about different items like, Sand Dollar, which is a CBDC, then the M-Pesa, Bitcoin, and others. But you got the idea there. Now, why is this so important right now? Because the debt level has been pushed super high due to the health crisis. Now you really don't want to actually say like, we missed it. Now the debt is super high, the inflation is going high. So if that's not managed properly, you are entering a stagflationary event. And they are pushing this narrative here. Now, as you go through and look at this, okay, governments are going to do this. The public-private partnerships is going to be in there for sure. And you understand, okay, these guys are really solving something. And that's coming from a big individual who knows a lot of stuff, having the experience in the field with the network. They know what they're talking about. They don't just say something just for the sake of it. They look at it, they understand it, they learn, and then they give comment. Now, taking all this, what you have seen in the documents, if you still have a doubt whether XRP is going to be one big thing in the financial industry, it's going to be hard to give you anything to read, understand, and adapt. Because as human beings, we survived this long because we learn, we see, we adapt to that situation. Not all the other mammals can do that. We can. And that's why we have this difference, right? If you look at any different living organisms, they all communicate, but not using languages. That's one of the most important steps which stands out. Why? Because we can share information for ages. We can write it down and people in next 3-5 generations can still read and learn from that. Why? They need to adapt to that situation. That's what we are here. Oh, we learn through that, we share here so that you know what you are talking about and you can prepare for that. And that way, you can create a better future for you and your family. You are liking this content, hopefully. If so, please do hit that like and subscribe button. That supports the channel a lot. And if you want to learn through the technical analysis and others, you can go to the channel. There's a ton of videos which I've put in recent days. And those are going to give you a lot of information. If you're looking at price, if you are looking at the fundamentals, if you're looking at what to invest, how to invest, all those basic stuffs, you get everything explained in short time frame. Guys, that's it for today. I'll meet you on the next video. Bye for now.